Hey guys, BigSquareRoadTour.com. I thought I had seen it all in the banking world, in the finance world, in the global economic system. I get how everybody buys into what they say on the news. I get that. But the insanity of what's going on right now with the banking industry. There's not one bank that's solvent on planet Earth right now. Every single one of their customers is having problems. The vast majority of them will never pay anything back. Ever. And banks are levered 10, 20, 30 to 1. Banks are worth negative money right now, and yet nobody runs to the bank to get their money out. Well, some people do, but very few. The stock market's still up. I get the rigging. Yeah, it's going to stay up, but I don't hear any of my friends or family or coworkers or all the ex-bankers I hung out with saying the banks are insolvent. There's no way they can get out of this one this time. As in, no way, not even Fed printing. Every one of their customers has been destroyed, and they're levered highly. So yeah, let Steve Mnuchin click his mouse all he wants. He's running out of cash fast again. He's going to need another bailout come probably another week. It's that bad. I just want to show you some things I was looking at. Facing catastrophe. Loss of working hours to equal 185 million full-time jobs, according to a UN agency. Worldwide working hours will be cut by nearly 7% in the second quarter of 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic, according to Tuesday's statement by the UN International Labor Organization. The loss will be equivalent to 195 million full-time workers. Nearly 2/5 of the 3.3 billion global workforce, some 1.25 billion workers, are employed in hard-hit sectors. Wow. 1.25 billion workers are getting pay cuts, are never going to see the salaries they saw before. And they're all levered to the hilt with that massive debt. From food service to manufacturing to real estate to accommodation. According to the report, over 80% of global workforce lives in countries subject to either partial or full lockdowns. Workers and businesses are facing catastrophe in both developed and developing countries. According to ILO Director Ray Guy Ryder, it will hit the most vulnerable the hardest. These are every single one of those 1.25 billion workers are bank customers. And remember, the banks are highly levered, meaning when we're going up, they make money hand over fist. When it starts going down, they instantly lose everything. And yet, nobody seems to be running to the bank. A couple people are, but not many at all. Everybody's investing in the stock market, the bond market. The banks go down. Every single one of those companies is insolvent at zero. Every single company on the Dow will be worth zero if the banks go down. Yeah, they might start up again one day. Who knows? It's insane right now. But the TV keeps you thinking, oh, this is going to be over. And we're going to have a V-shaped recovery, as Trump says. With what? These banks are insolvent, my friends. Do you use a bank? Does your company use a bank? Does your friends and family use a bank ever? The banks are gone. They've already delayed their earnings for 45 days, but that won't change their earnings. It delays the pain. According to the Financial Times, the sheer scale and speed of job loss due to coronavirus has taken worldwide leaders by surprise after nearly 10 million people in the U.S. filed initial job loss claims during the last 2 weeks in March. The ILO has warned that the pandemic could result in 25 million lost jobs in 2020, more than those lost in the 2008 financial crisis. Coronavirus crisis is leading to a severe decline in employment. And things aren't going to jump back when this starts up again. Watch Cliff High's video, his video today, second video, where he talks about China's not coming back from this. And they don't even plan to do it. They can say what they want. They're faking it. They are destroyed as the manufacturing capital of the world. It's over. And who's invested highly in China? The big banks. and their customers are in China. It is ugly, and anybody who's got leverage knows just how ugly it is. And the banks are the highest leverage. Besides the hedge funds, they're all done. And they're a big customer of the banks, by the way. Many economists expect the U.S. unemployment rate to quickly rise above 10%, with similar results following in Europe. I'll guarantee you most of these restaurants won't be opening up again. Why? Because they live on very, very, very slim margins. They don't have any rainy day money saved up. And as soon as this thing is lifted, you think everybody's going to run out and pack the restaurants? No, it's going to be a long time. Like I said 1,000 times, the world has changed. It will never go back to the way it was, ever. And I'm looking for the bank crash. And that is coming very soon, much sooner than you probably think. It's so bad right now. Credit Suisse, one of the biggest, too big to fail banks, had to turn to its own rich clients for emergency funding. They can't even get money from the Fed anymore. And the Fed's bailing out everybody. Why rely on central banks when your own clients have more capital than most central banks? That is the question the second largest bank, Swiss bank, asked itself in recent weeks during the unprecedented market crash and collapse in liquidity, when it wasn't clear when and under what conditions central banks would step in. As a result, Credit Suisse turned to its own ultra-high net worth clients to bolster its balance sheet and its ability to lend as markets sank last month, and companies started drawing down on credit lines to weather the corona pandemic, according to Bloomberg, which reported that institutional clients, family offices, and billionaires were offered notes that pay a 2% interest on money that's kept with the Swiss lender for at least a year. The notes, which were issued as a form of structured product, were sold in the first weeks of March to shore up the lending capacity as coronavirus infection rates began to rise rapidly. That's insane. If your banker came to you and said, "Hey, I'll give you 2%. Can I borrow some money?" What would you do? You get the hell out of that bank. Senior Africans propose a standstill on Eurobond debt payments. No country has the ability to pay anymore. Remember, countries borrow from banks too, and central banks, like the ECB. Tajid Taim, former chief executive of Credit Suisse again, is among several prominent Africans pressing for a 2-year moratorium of $15 billion of sovereign African debt owned by the private sector in what under normal circumstances would be considered a default. Now, what's this going to do to the derivative market? If a default triggers the derivative, you're going to have holders of that derivative who are hedging their loans to Africa say, "Hey, this is a default." And the other side is going to say, "No, it's not a default. It says right here, it's not a default. It's a bailout. It's not a default." It gets ugly. That's when you throw Blythe Masters into the mix and she goes to the ISDA and says, "Okay, we got to change the rules again. Get that criminal out of here." And then we have this. Face it, Argentina's delay is the next step to insolvency. Argentina's going down again. How many times have we seen this story play out over and over and over? Argentina can't pay its bills. A hard default is coming. Sorry, century bond holders. It was good while it lasted. Once the new government of Alberto Fernandez and Cristina Kirchner came in, the writing was on the wall for anyone who wanted to read it. The Kirchner leadership that still dominates official politics in Buenos Aires will prove once again why lending money to Argentina is, well, a bad idea. Getting an Argentina bond trade right is a matter of early in and early out. The economy is in a recession again. It survives on dollars. Everything about Argentina's core business, from the commodities trade to wine country and Patagonia tourism to its real estate market, is done in dollars. No one wants the peso. The poor have it. They can't afford dollars. And as the economy goes nowhere, they increasingly depend on government for food. Meanwhile, its central bank is burning through reserves and has maybe $12 billion to its name. Worth noting, failed state Venezuela defaulted on its sovereign and PDSVA oil bonds once it hit $10 billion in cash reserve. Now Argentina has discovered the coronavirus. It will use the public health emergency, which Fernandez declared last week, to convince the world that it needs to spend money on public health initiatives to prepare for the worst. Does that make sense? Yes. Should Argentina be trusted? No. The country is basically insolvent. They're in now what is called a restricted default in credit watchdog world. Fitch Ratings put them there last night. Argentina's falling apart. They're all falling apart, but the banks are the ones that get hit. The banks are all insolvent at this moment. They don't need any more pain at all. Nothing else has to happen. We don't need an asteroid to fall down on planet Earth for the banks to be belly up for the rest of their lives. And that's what's happening right now. Your bank, you have money in your bank, you are insane. 401k, kiss it goodbye. Banks go down, stocks are gone. Why? Because they keep their money in there too. It is Armageddon in the financial world. So if you have anything, we all have something attached to the banks. All of us, everything. You go to fill up your gas in your car. That gas station is completely reliant on the banks. Everything. The internet. What are we going to do without the internet? So you got to think, well, yeah, they're going to bail it out and we got to get started again somehow. Everything is affected by everything, and the banks are touching every single company, every single industry, and every single job out there, and every single country out there. And they're all insolvent. Is this fear porn? No, it is not fear porn. This is fear. It is just flat out fear. You should be scared. I don't get scared that easy, and I'm scared to death. Why? Because no one's talking about this. The banks are insolvent, all of them. Every single one. We'll see what happens in the next, 30 days now. Maybe 33, 34 days until the banks start declaring how much they lost. And it's well over their Tier 1 capital, I guarantee it. This is Bix. I'll talk to you later.